This course will prepare you for Leetcode-style coding challenges. You'll learn 10 important JavaScript algorithms interview questions to help you ace your coding interviews. Mukhtar from Coding Monkey created this course. He'll help you build a strong foundation in JavaScript algorithms and tackle LeetCode problems with confidence.
Hi, welcome back to Coding Money. In about 2 hours, we'll work on top 10 JavaScript algorithms for beginners that will help you prepare for LeetCode problems. These coding problems are for absolute beginners, and these are meant to help you get better at coding and at the same time prepare you for your coding interview at big tech companies like Google, where the starting salary is $191,000. I have a bonus for you at the end of the video. Make sure you don't miss that. So let's get started. We'll be reversing a string and also an integer. This is a very common coding interview question. One way or the other, you'll be required to reverse a string or integer as part of your coding interview challenge. So let's get started. Alright, so we got two coding challenges in this video. We need to reverse a string, and then later we'll reverse an integer. We'll do the string first, because once you know how to reverse a string, you can easily reverse an integer. All you would have to do is convert the integer into the string, do the reversal, and then convert back to the integer. You'll have the solution. So we're given a string. We need to return a new string with the reversed order of the characters. Here are some of the examples. Pause the video right here and give it a try. Alright, thank you for trying to solve this problem. If you are not able to come up with a solution, no worries at all. I'll give you one possible solution to this problem. I'll start off by creating a variable called reversed. I'll set it to empty strings. I'll do something with this variable and then return it at the end. So what do you think I should be doing to this variable in order to reverse a string like coding money? So obviously you would have to loop through each character of the string one by one and add each character to this reversed variable, but the next characters that you would insert before that. So we will be doing something like this, one by one to each character. As you can see, we'll have something like this at the end. So to do that, we need a loop, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the for loop. So we'll do let I equals to 0, I less than str.length, I plus plus. And all we have to do is set reversed equal to str.I, the current character, plus add to the previous ones, reversed. And at the end, we're just gonna return the reverse. Let me run the code to see if it works. So here I'm gonna call the function coding money. As you can see, it has reversed the string for us. So this is a solution. But as you can see, for this traditional for loop, there are many moving pieces. Like you need to set a variable here, you need to check for the condition, and you need to set the incrementer here. So there are many areas that things can go wrong. So my suggestion would be to use the newer JavaScript syntax. You can do the same thing as let char of str, and all you have to do, replace this with the char. And if I save it and I try to run this again, you see it does the same thing, but this is much cleaner. There's even an easier way to solve this problem. The reason I gave you the solution because sometimes the interviewer might prevent you from using that built-in function. People who have used JavaScript for some time, they already know that there's a built-in reverse function. Why not use that? Sometimes the interviewer might not allow you to use that, so I gave you this solution in case that happens to you. So let me copy this solution. Let me copy the whole function and save it here for your future reference. By the way, I've created a GitHub repository where I'll be posting a lot more coding challenges. I'll post the link in the description, so be sure to check that out and follow it, because I'll be posting LeetCode problems and a lot of other coding interview challenges. Let me show you the MDN documentation for the built-in reverse method. As you can see, this method is used on arrays. We can only use this on arrays. However, we are working with strings now, so we need to find a way to convert the string into an array, to do the reversal, and then convert back the array into a string. So let's do that. Okay, let's create a variable called str2array. So the way we convert a string to an array is by using a method called split. So if we don't pass anything, it's going to split each character in the string into an element in an array. So once we have that, we can just call the reverse method on str2array. We can call the reverse function. This will reverse the array, but we need to return a string. So for that case, str2array, we need to join it. How do we join it? The same way that we use the split. We'll just join back the elements in the array into a string. So if I run this, as you can see, we'll get the same output. We can even minimize this syntax, this code. We can write all of this in one line because of something called chaining in JavaScript. So we can chain the whole thing in one line. So how can we do that? So let me remove all of it and return. So I'll get the input string, I'll call split onto it to convert it into an array. Then I can call reverse, and then I can join it back. And this is the reverse string. And if I save it, run it, we get the same output. So with this new knowledge that you have of string reversals, you can easily reverse integers. So this should be very easy. I highly recommend you pause the video right here and give it a try. Thank you for trying to solve this problem. I hope you were able to find a solution. I'm sure if you did try this problem, you came across the edge case where you have a negative number as the input and you would have to return a negative reversed number. So we're going to take care of that now. There are many ways to solving this problem. I'm going to give you one possible solution. So I'm going to create a variable called reversed. So you already know how to convert a string. So we need to convert the integer into a string, and to do that we can use in.toString method, and then pretty much do the same thing we did for the string, split it into an array. Now run the reverse on the array. Why we're converting it into array? Because the reverse method only works on the arrays, and then we will join it back. Join. If I return this and let me run this function, 15. As you can see, we're reversing it and we're returning a string. This is not an integer. We need to return an integer, and also we need to, for example, if I run it with negative 15, you will see that the sign will come after the number. This is not correct. So we need to, first of all, convert the string into an integer. And the way we're going to do that is by using parse int. Okay, and then we need to multiply this with a positive 1 if it is a positive number, and if it is a negative number, we need to convert this into, for example, a negative 1. So we already have a function for that. It's math.sign, and we need to provide the input string in. So whatever the sign for this input is, we're gonna use that over here. So I'm going to pass the input string over here, and now if I run the code, you should get the correct negative integer in the reversed order. We're given a string. We need to return true if the string is a palindrome, or false if it is not. What is a palindrome? Palindromes are strings that form the same word if it is reversed. For example, kayak. If you reverse this word, you'll get the same word. So we need to return true in that case. Similarly, madam, if you reverse it, you'll get the same thing. However, for coding money, if you reverse it, you'll get something like this, and this is not equal to this. Therefore, we need to return false. So we already know how to reverse a string. If you do not know how to do that, you can watch the last video. I would like you to solve this problem. Pause the video right here and then come back. We will work on one possible solution. All right, I hope you were able to find a solution for this problem. If you didn't, don't worry, we'll work on it right now. So first of all, we need to find the reverse of the given input string. So we'll create a variable called reversed, and we'll reverse the input string str. We'll call the split function on it. Why? Because we need to convert it into an array. Why? Because we need to run reverse function on it, and this function only works on the arrays, and once it's reversed, we can join it like that, turn it back into a string. So now we have the reversed of the input string, and we need to check for it now. So if the input string is equal to reversed, then we need to return true. Otherwise, if it fails, then we need to return false at the end. Let's run this function to check, run the function to see if it works. So I'm going to say palindrome. I'll run it with kayak first. Let me save it, and then I'll run. Yeah, so it's working fine. I'm getting the desired result, which is true. Let me try with coding money. We should get false in this case. As you can see, this is working fine, and it's a very easy problem. And the future videos will build upon the knowledge from the previous videos. So expect that the next videos to get more difficult. So we can write all of this in one line. We can do the comparison right here. We can get rid of this and do the comparison right here, like this. And this will still work. Let me run it. See, it's working fine. I'm going to give you an assignment, a homework. You can come up with a solution. There's another technique called the 2 pointers technique. If you want to learn about that, do some research, find out what it does, and try to solve this problem with the 2 pointer technique. Or there's another JavaScript built-in method called every. You can use that to solve this. So when you do it, just paste your result in the comment section and you'll get a thumbs up from me. Today we're going to work on a very common coding interview question. Given a string, return the character that is most commonly used in the string. Example, if you're given a string like A, B, C, 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 D, then we'll return the character C because C is the most commonly used character in this string. And as you can see in this second example, you see 1 is repeated the most in this string, therefore we'll return the character 1, not the number 1. So once you learn how to solve this problem using the technique that I'm going to give you in this video, you'll be able to solve a variety of other common string questions. For example, what is the most common characters in a string? Does string A have the same characters as string B? Anagram questions. Does the given string have any repeated characters in it? These are some examples of the problems that you would be able to solve by using the method that I'm going to teach you in this video. But first, I would like you to give this problem a try. I'll be right here. Pause the video. All right, welcome back. I hope you were able to find a solution. If not, doesn't matter. We'll work on it right now. Just by looking at this problem, we know that we need some kind of a data structure to keep the count of each character in a given string. So we would need a character map. Let me give you an example, something like this. A1, B1, and C, not sure how many, like about 7, and D1. Just something like this. We need something like this. Okay, so to come up with something like this, we already have a data structure in JavaScript called object. JavaScript objects are like this. We can also use another data structure called maps, which is something new, but we'll use an object in this case. So, but how to do this? How can we? Of course, we would have to loop over through each character, like one by one, in a given string, and try to count it, and then store the values in this object. Okay, so let's get started. Of course, we would need an object, so we'll create an object called character map, char map, and we'll set it to an empty object. Okay, and now we need to loop over the string. We need to loop over each character in a string, and add the value to the character map. So to loop over a string or an array, we can use the same syntax. For let char of str, str is the input. So we need to say if there's already a value in the character map. If there is, then we need to increment the value. If for example, if there's no entry for A, we need to create a new entry for A and set it to equal 1. I mean, the first time we set the value, we will set it to 1. And then if we come across the same character, we need to increment the value. So to do that, we will check the character map for that value. If we have the character in the character map, then we will increment it by 1. If we don't have it, then we'll set the value as 1. Okay, like for example, how would this loop would work? It's very easy. So we're gonna loop over each string, and so for example, when we are at A, we'll see that if there is A in the character map, no, there is not. So we'll set A equal to 1. All right, then it goes to B. Do we have B in the character map? No, we don't have it. So we'll set B equal to 1. So the else part will run. So when it comes to C, do we have C in the character map? No. So we'll set it to 1. And then again, it will come to C. Do we have C in the character map? Yes, we have. So increment by 1. So it will become 2. And it will again come to C. C, do we have C? Yes, we have. So we will increment by 1. So it will be 3. It will keep on doing this until we have the character map with the count of each character in our input string. So we will have that, right? Just to be sure, let me return it to see that our character map is working. So let me save this. Let me run this. Okay, we need to call the function. So let me call this one. I need to save it and run it. As you can see, we have created our character map with the count of each character in the input string. So we have something like this, as I was showing you in the example before. Now this is object, right? We need to loop through the object to find which one is the most commonly used character in the string. So I'll show you two ways of looping the objects. One way is old way of looping through an object, and I'll give you a newer way of looping through an object, which is much easier. So let me first of all give you the older syntax. And the way that we loop through the object is by converting it into an array. And how we can convert an object into an array is by using something called object.entries and passing the object. In our case, it is character map. So to loop over, then we have it will return an array with the keys and value. Just like in our character map, these are the keys and these are the values that we created earlier. So we need to use a for loop to loop through this array now. So for that, we say for const destructure it. So I'll destructure and get the key and value from this array. So of object.entries like this. And then, yeah, so this is how we're gonna loop through an object by converting it into a character. Let me show you how it looks like. So let me console log this. So we get key and value. So let me save this and run it. See? So we get the key and the value. This is the output from this loop, as you can see. So we get the keys and values. Okay. All right. So now what do we need to do? We need to find which one is the maximum. Like we need to find give an instruction to the computer to find see, like we can see, like we are humans, we can see that this one is the most commonly used character, but we need to tell the computer to find this one. So to do that, we need to check each one. We need to check each one of these to see which one is the maximum. And to keep account for that one, we need to create another variable called max and set it to 0. And also to get the character, the max character, we'll need to create another variable and set this to an empty string. So now we'll just check for a condition. Like we'll see, we'll say if value, if value is greater than max. So we'll see, like the first one, is this greater than max, which is 0? Yes. Then we'll set this max to the value, and max char to the key, right? So this will loop through each one. Like this will first of all, it takes a, see, is this greater than 0? Yes. Then it updates the value for max and max char to a. It comes to b. Is this greater than 1? Because it's been changed to 1. Yes, it is. No, it is not. Then it skips that. It comes to c. It sees that whether the value, which is 7, greater than 1. Yes. Then set the value to 7, max to 7, and set max char to the key, which is what? C. And return what? We need to return the max char. Let me save this and run it. All right, so we're getting the correct output from our code. This is a working code, but now we're going to try to optimize it a bit. And I'll show you, I'll show you a newer way, an easier way to loop through the objects. All right, so we can use similar syntax that we used to loop through the string. We can use this syntax to loop through arrays as well. So we can use something like this for the objects as well. So how can we do that? There's just a small little change. So we can say let key of car map. As you can see, this is exactly the same syntax, but we can't use let key of object, which is a car map, we cannot use that. For the objects, the change that we need to bring is we need to change of with n. So this is a bit opposite of each other. So when you want to loop through the arrays and strings, you will write of, and O starts, like object starts with O, so that's not what you're going to use for objects. You will use N for the objects. So now here to check the value, we need to say char map key. Okay, for the value, this is how we're going to write it. And so for the key, we just write key over here. Let me save the code, run it again. Okay, we are having a problem here. As you can see, it's case sensitive, so we need to be careful with naming with our code. So let's run it again. See, we're getting the same output, but this one is much nicer, cleaner code, and you just need to remember very few things to be able to loop through the objects. However, the earlier example had, like, you need to remember object.entries, and then you need to remember to pass the object into that method. So this one is much easier. This is my personal opinion. Also, we can refactor this code to make it much smaller. So we can convert the same code in just one line of code. So here we can say if character map, okay, and if there is a character map, then we will add 1 to it, or if it does not exist, then what we will do is we'll just use 1. So let's see. Okay, let me save it and run the code. As you can see, this looks much cleaner and short. As you can see, we just convert the if else statement into one line of code. You can do this, like, even if it is too much to do, like +1, you can do something like ++ character map or 1. So if you save it and you see our code is working fine, let's run the other test case. Should get 1. Yes, it's working just fine. We are given an array and a chunk size. Divide the array into many subarrays where each subarray is of length size. For example, if you're given an array with elements of 1, 2, 3, 4, then we need to divide this array into chunks of length 2. For example, the output should be an array containing subarrays of length 2. Here are some other test cases and examples for better understanding of this problem. I would suggest you to pause the video here, give this problem a try. All right, thank you for trying to solve this problem. We're going to work on one possible way of solving this coding challenge. The first thing that I do when I get a coding problem is that I use the divide and conquer technique, where I get the problem and divide it into smaller problems. So the first problem that I'm looking at is to be able to figure out how to get the first two elements from this array, how to get the chunk of an array, right? So let me run the function and run this first test case over here. So what I would like to do is to get the first two elements from this array. And the way that we can do that is by using a built-in array function called slice. Let me open up the MDN documentation. It says the slice method returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object, selected from the start to the end not included, where start and end represent the index items in that array. The original array is not modified. So let's use this to get the first two elements. So the way that we can do that is array.slice. The arrays are 0 indexed, which means the first element is 0, then it is 1, 2, and 3, like this. So to be able to get the first two, we'll provide the first index, which is 0, and then the second index is 2. So in this case, we have this 2, so this is great. We can use the size here. So let me return this and see what we get in the output. Yeah, so we get the first two elements from the array. So now we solved the small problem that will come in handy in solving the bigger problem, right? So now we know that we need to return an array, right? So we would need to create an empty array here. Let's call it result. So, and at the end we will return this result, okay? We'll return this result, but first we need to get the chunks from array and push it in this array, right? So so how we can do that? We can do it like this: result.push, and we can put push this chunk inside of this array, the empty array that we have created. However, this will only push the first two elements. Let me save this, and if I run it, you will see we only get the first chunk. However, we're not getting these other two. So we need to repeat this, and we need to a variable to keep track of the index, right? So let's use a variable called index and set it to 0. So instead of the 0, we will use this variable, okay? And we need to repeat this code, this line of code, for all the elements of the array. As long as there are elements in the array, we need to keep on repeating this. So for that, we will use a loop. So when you want to repeat a statement or code, that's when you would use loop. So I'll use a while loop, while index is less than the array dot length. As long as there are elements in our array, we want to keep on executing this line of code, right? But this will run forever. This will be an infinite loop because we're not doing anything to make this stop, right? This will keep on running forever. We need to increment the index. We need to increment the index. We need to make sure that when the index is greater than the array.length, then it should exit the loop. So how can we do that? We will increment the index with the size, right? And so this will start from 0 to, and the next time I would like to add index with the size, so that the next time it will get from 2, it will start from 2 to 4, right here. But since in this example we don't have the fifth element, which is going to be index of 4, we don't have that, so it will not, this function will not take, the slice function will not take the end as we read in the documentation. So in that case we will have 3 and 4. So let's save this and run the code. As you can see, now we're getting the correct output. So let me try to run with this example and see if it is going to work for this. Yeah, so we're getting the correct result, and that's the solution for this coding problem. That's only one possible solution. There are many ways of solving this problem. If your solution is different than this, then it's not a problem, as long as you're getting the desired output. We need to write a function that accepts a string. The function should capitalize the first letter of each word in the string, then return the capitalized string. Here are some examples. I want you to open the 5-titlecase.js exercise file and give this problem a try. Pause the video right here. Thank you for trying to solve this problem. Every time I get a coding problem, what I do is use the divide and conquer technique to divide the problem into very small problems so that it's easier to find a solution. So here, the first thing that I think we need to figure out is to change the case for the string to make it an uppercase. So let me return str to uppercase. This is the function that we will call on the string to change the case. So now you can see it's all capital letters, right? However, we would need only the first letter of each word to be a capital, not the whole sentence, right? So what we need to do is to break this string, to split this string into an array with each word. And how can we do that? So let me say const, let me create a variable words, and I will call a split function on the string, and I'll provide a space. So what I will do is I will split this string based on the spaces. So this will become like something like this. Now that we have all the words, what we can do is create another variable called result, right? And set that into an empty array. And we will capitalize each word, and push it into this array, and at the end we will just return this result. Okay, and to do that we need to loop over the words. So we need to loop over the string, right, with each word. So we can use a for loop for let word of words. So now we have access to each word, and we want to push that result.push. We want to push that word into this result array. And so what do we want to do? We want to get the first letter of the word. And how can we do that? Like this. So for each word, like the first time it loops over, you'll get this word. So you'll get this word. So the first letter that you can get by, like doing like this. Okay, so this is the first word, but we need the rest of this characters to be added to this word. So how can we do that? So we need to add that. If you watched the last video, you know how to use the slice function. So what we will do is we will call a slice on the word, and we'll start from the first position, right? As you know that strings and arrays are zero index, so this would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So we got the first letter. However, we want to add the rest of the letters, so we'll start from the position 1. So it will take all of this and add it here, right? So once we capitalize each word, the loop will go through each word like this, one by one, and capitalize the first letter and add the rest of the characters to the word. And so we will have all the words in the array. So let me save this and run the code. You will see that, okay, so it's not been capitalized because we haven't called the to uppercase function onto the first letter. So let's do that and run the code again. Now, as you can see, each word in this array is capitalized, but this is inside of an array. So we need to join the elements in the array into the string based on the space, right? So I'll save this and run this again. This is the correct output. And this is how we capitalize the sentence. And if you don't like creating a new array and adding each word into that array and returning the result, we can even minimize all of this work by using map method. So we can call map on this words. So we can get rid of all of this. We can call the map function, and we'll get access to each word, right? And the same way we will get access to the word. We'll get the first letter. We'll change this to uppercase. We'll add the rest of whoops. Call the word. We'll call slice on the word and add the rest of the characters of the word, and then we'll join with the space and return the result. Let's run it. See, this is another solution. So you got two solutions for this problem. We no longer need this variable, so we can remove this. check to see if two provided strings are anagrams of each other. One string is an anagram of another if it uses the same characters in the same quantity. Only consider characters, not spaces or punctuation. Consider capital letters to be the same as lowercase. Here are some examples. If you provided two strings, one coding money and the other money coding, it should return true because it uses the same characters and the quantity of each character is the same, therefore it returns true. Same is true for this other example. Rail safety and fairy tales are anagrams of each other because they use the same characters and the same quantity of characters are present in both of these strings. We will not consider exclamation marks or special characters or spaces. So this is the challenge for today. Pause the video and give this problem a try. Also, if you want to follow along, check out the GitHub repository at this URL. All right, so I'll give you two possible solutions to this coding problem. The first solution consists of 3 steps. In the first step, we'll build a character map for string A. Then we'll build a character map for string B. And the third step, we'll compare both of these character maps to see if they're equal to each other. If they're not, we'll return false. So let's start by building the character map for string A. To do that, we need an empty object. Let's create that. Let's call this char map A and set that to an empty object. And also we need to remove space in punctuations, exclamation marks and things like that. So I'll do that now. String A dot to lowercase, and to remove the punctuations and spaces, we'll use a regular expression. Make sure to use capital W. This will match all the special characters, the space and punctuations. This is a character set. The brackets represent the character set, and this capital D represent anything that is not a word, which is different than the small w. If you use a small w, it will match all the words that is in a character. It will not match the punctuations. So we'll use capital D to replace that. Okay, so to show you, let's return this string A. Let me return it, save this to see the output of our clean string. So as you can see, this is the string A. It has space and exclamation marks, but after this line of code, it removed the exclamation mark and spaces, and this is the output that we get. All right, so let's create now the character map. So we'll use a for loop. So for let char of string A, and so we'll say char map A dot char. Let's see, char map A. If this character already exists, if it exists, then increment it by 1. If it does not exist, then use 1. Okay, so this will create the character map for string A. Let me return it to see the output of what we get here. So return char map A, save and run. So you see, we're getting the character map for string A. So as you can see, it's counting each characters. For example, we have 1R, 2A, 1I, 1L, so on. So we created the character map for string A. We need to do the same thing, exactly same steps. There's a principle in software development: do not repeat yourself. So if I write the same code over here, it's repeating myself, writing the same code again and again. So at this point, it is a good idea to create an helper method, another function to create the character map. So I'll call this new function. I'll call it car map. I'll call it car map, and it will have str. And I'll just what I'll do, I'll copy this code, I'll paste it here, right? So return car map. So let's do something, remove these things so that we can reuse it with anything. So I'm just going to change this to str, because this is the variable that we're using here, str, and then str. Okay, remove the a from here, and so I'm going to save this. What I'm going to do is here for character map A, I'm going to use car map and provide string A to this one, string A. And let me return this map A to make sure it's working fine. So yeah, so this is working fine, and now the best part is that we can reuse this to build the character map for string B. So I can copy the statement and paste it right here. I'll rename the variable, call it B, and here I'm just going to change string A to string B, because this is what we're using as the parameter. And now, so we have the character map. We build a character map for both the string A and string B. Now we need to compare both of them. First of all, let's compare the length of both the characters. So to do that, as you can see in an object, we have keys and values. As you can see, R is the key and 1 is the value. A is the key, 2 is the value, right? To get the keys, to get all the keys, we can use object.keys, and we can provide the string like that. So let me return this, return object.keys, so that you see what would be the output. Now, so if I return this, object.keys, oh sorry, I have to provide the character map, car map A. So let me save it. So you see, these are the keys. It returns all the keys for me from the object, the character map of string A. So what I can do is I can compare both of them by using an if statement. I can say object.keys provide car map A, and to find the length, because this object.keys convert into an array, and then you get the keys in an array. So on the array we can use length to check the length, and compare that with object.keys car map B dot length. So if the length of these two keys do not match, then we'll return false, right? So if our character map A does not have the same keys as the character map B, then obviously we know that this is going to be false. This is not going to be an anagram. Now we need to loop both of these character maps. So we can loop over any of them. We can either choose A or B, it doesn't matter. So I'll use character map A. So I'll say let key n char map A. Now you see that we're using n. You see, let key n. When we are working with objects and we want to loop through the objects, we use n. And if it is an array, then in that case we'll use of. So now we're using let key n character map A, and then I'll use a comparison. I'll do if char map A key is not equal to char map B key. If the key in character map A is not equal to the key of the character map B. For example, if we have, for example, 1 R in character map A and we have 2 R in the character map B, and if they are not equal to each other, then in that case, we know that this is not an anagram, therefore we will return false, right? So if this check passes and this check passes and we can't find anything that is not equal to each other, then it means that it is an anagram. Both of the characters in character map A and B are equal. So this means that we have an anagram. So in that case, we will return true. So let's save this and let's run the code to see if it is working or not. As you can see, this is not working. Why? This should return true. Why it is not working? So it is returning false. We have to find what is the reason. So here, this is a big mistake that I'm doing. I am checking if they're equal. I should check if they're not equal. So this should be like this. They should not be equal to this. And in that case, we would return false. All right, so let's save this and run the code. It should give you the correct output this time. Let's try with another example. So let me try with this. All right, let me save it. This should return true. The last test case, let's try with this one. Copy. Paste, save it. Okay, and now it should return false. This is working. This is the first solution to the problem. Let's work on the easier and very intuitive solution to this problem. All right, let's work on the second solution. I said I'll give you two solutions, and the second solution is much easier. I'll show you one small little trick. It will make it a piece of cake. So let me copy this one for your future reference. I'll copy the solution as well for you, and I'll copy it, I'll paste it here, I'll comment it out. Okay, and now let me get rid of this. So now I'll just get rid of all of it, right? So now what we will do is we'll sort a string A in string B. Once it is sorted, then we'll get it will make it much easier, right? So let's do that. So let's sort string A, but you know that the sort function is only possible on arrays. It cannot be done in on the string directly. So we need to convert the string into an array. But before doing that, we need to change this to lowercase, and also we'll do the regular expression, the same regular expression that we did to get rid of the space and punctuations. All right, so once we got rid of that, I will call split function on it. And then once I have changed this to an array, I can call the sort method. And once it is sorted, I will join it back like this. So let me return this to see what we get. Let me save this. Return. As you can see, this is a hi there, right? So this is string A. We can do the same thing for string B. So let's create another function to do this to make it easier, because we know about the software development principle: do not repeat yourself. We will not repeat ourselves. So therefore, we'll create a function. I will call this function clean str, and I'll provide this string as the parameter. So what I'll do is I'll just cut this from here. I'll paste it here. Return. And instead of string, we need to use the same input parameter name. The same thing like this. Okay. So now we can do the same. Like we can return clean str, provide a string A, and compare this to clean str string B. So now when we do this, we'll just compare this. Well, this is a conditional statement. If it is true, it will return true. If it is false, it will return false. So let's also try with another example. This one, copy, paste, save, run it. We are getting the correct output. This is the second solution, as I promised to give you. We need to write a function that returns a number of vowels used in a string. What's a vowel? Vowels are the characters A, E, I, O, U. Here are some examples. So we need to count the vowels. I, E, E. So there are 3 vowels. We need to return 3. And the second example, how are you? We have 5 vowels. So we need to count the vowels in a given string. Pause the video, give this problem a try. All right, so I'll give you 2 solutions to this problem. I'll give you one solution with the regular expressions. That is the easiest. And a lot of interviewers might not like you to use the regular expressions. They may not allow you to do that, so I'm going to give you another solution just in case. So with the regular expression, is very easy. So we have a built-in function called match, which we can call on string, which is the provided string. So we can call match, and then we will provide a regular expression. So what regular expression we will provide here? We'll use a character set of A, E, I, O, U, right? And then we need to provide 2 flags, G and I. Why are we providing G? because by default, if we do not have G over here, it will stop at the first match that it finds. For example, if it finds A, so it will only return the first match. When we have G, it will not stop at the first match. It will go forward, and it will find any character that matches the letters in this character set. And the I is for case insensitivity, so it will become insensitive to the case. Even if it is a capital letter, it will still work. So this one, the match method, returns null if there are no matches. If there are any match, it will return an array with all the matches. So therefore, what we'll do is create a variable called matches, and store the result of the matches inside this matches variable, and we'll return matches. If there are matches, we will return the length. We don't want to return the match, because as you can see in the examples, we just need to return the count of those vowels. So we'll just use a length, because on arrays we have a property called length, and it will return the length of that array. And if there are no matches, we can return 0. So in that case, I'll save this and I run it. As you can see, for coding money, in the example we have, this is returning the correct result. So this was the first solution with the regular expression. All right, let's work on the second solution to this problem. So the idea is we'll create an array with all the vowels inside it. So then we will check the string against the values in the array to see if we can find a match. If there's a match, we will use the counter variable to increment, and then at the end we'll return that counter variable. So let's try to do that. So let's create an array called vowel check. And so what I'm going to do, let's try to copy from here. So I'm just going to copy the vowels in this array. So now we have all the vowels, right? Oops, sorry. I try to use the camel case. Okay, so now I also need a variable called count, and I'm going to set that to 0. And then I'm going to run a loop for let car of str. Okay, I'm going to have a logic inside of this loop, and at the end I'll return the count. What I will do inside of this loop, I will check to see if the characters in the string is a vowel. If it is a vowel, I'm going to increment the count variable. If it is not a vowel, I'll not do anything. And so at the end, we'll just return the count. Okay, so the loop goes each character one by one like this, right? So in this example, we have coding money. The first iteration, it will check for C, then O, D, I, N, G. So I'll say, so the arrays have a built-in helper function called includes. That's also available on this string, but in our case, it's better to use an array. It's more structured and organized. So we can say, if vowel check dot includes, okay, if the vowel check includes the character from the string, so if it includes character, so in the first iteration, C, if is C inside of this array, if it is, If it is not, then it will just skip this line. If in the second iteration it will come to O, so it will check to see if O is inside of the vowel check. If it is, then we will increment the count variable. So at the end we will return the count. So let me run it. In the example we should get the 4. So let's see. As you can see, we're getting the correct result. This is another solution to this problem. One more thing before you go, you can just add 2 lowercase over here to make sure even if the provided string has capital letters or small letters, it will still match. Our JavaScript training algorithms for beginners would not be complete without the classic Fizz Buzz challenge. We need to write a program that console logs the numbers from 1 to n, but for the multiples of 3, print Fizz instead of the number, and for the multiples of 5, print Buzz. For the numbers which are multiples of both 3 and 5, print Fizz Buzz. Here's an example. I would like you to try this problem and pause the video right here. Thank you for trying to solve this problem. I hope you were able to find a solution. If you did not, this doesn't matter. We'll work on it together. The whole trick to solving this problem is using the modulo operator. If you haven't used that before, we'll use it right away. Okay, of course we need a loop, right? So we'll start from 1. Let I equals to 1 because it's given in the directions, and the condition that we need to satisfy is I less than or equal to n, and then I plus plus. Okay, so the first thing that we would need to do is to check for if the number is a multiple of 5 and 3. If it is, so how to check if a number is a multiple of 3? We use the modulo operator. So we can say the modulo operator is the percent sign. If I modulo 3 equals to 0, it means that if I is divisible by 3 completely and it does not have any remainders, then it means this number is a multiple of 3. Okay, and so I also need to check if I is a multiple of 5. If I is divisible by 5 and it does not have any remainders, then in that case we need to write Fizz Buzz, right? Else if I is multiple of 3 and if I is divisible by 3 and it does not have any remainders after the division, then it means that this is also, we use the modulo operator every time if we need to do, like, for example, every third time or every second time in a repetition. So that's how, like, I'll show you now in the example. Okay, so in that case, if it is multiple of 3, we need to print Fizz. So console.log Fizz. Else if I is a multiple of 5, we need to write Buzz. Console.log else console.log the number I. Okay, let me save this and run the code. As you can see, I provided the number 5 here to the function, and as you can see that I have the number 1, 2, and then it says Fizz, and then I have 4, and then it says Buzz. Okay, let me try with a bigger number like 20. Okay, let me save it and run the code. As you can see, so like I said, if a number is a multiple of 3, then it means then it means that it will repeat every third time. You see, this is the third, every third time we have Fizz, every fifth time we have Buzz, and every time that the number is divisible by 3 and 5 and there is no remainder to that number, like for example 15, we write Fizz Buzz. Okay, that's the solution to the classic Fizz Buzz challenge. We need to write a function that accepts a positive number n. The function should console log a step shape with n levels using the pound character. Make sure the step has spaces on the right hand side. Here are some examples. The function accepts n number, and if we are provided with number 2, this should be the output. Okay, so give this problem a try and pause the video right here. Alright, thank you for trying to solve this problem. If you were able to find a solution, that's great. If not, it doesn't matter. We will work on this problem together. I think first we need to focus on printing something like this. It would be easier for us to print something like this, and then we will worry about the spaces later. Let's do this one, and then we'll take it from there. As you might have already guessed, we need a loop. So I'll write the for loop I equals to 1, I less than or equal to n, I plus plus. Okay, so one thing I've noticed that beginners are confused about whether they should start from 1 or 0. If they want to start from 0, then I'll make sure that the condition is I less than n. But if they want to start from 1, then the condition has to be I less than or equal to n. So that's important to note. For now, I'm just going to console log the pound sign. I'm going to save it and run it. As you can see, we get the 3 pounds, but we need 9 pound symbols, 3 on each line. Okay, so to do that, we would need to use a nested loop. I noticed that the beginner developers find working with the nested loops difficult. They struggle with it. I'm going to give you a way to make it easier. If you visualize what you want to do in terms of a table containing rows and columns, it makes it a lot easier. So let's try to do that. I'm going to rename my variable. I'll change it to row, and then I will create a nested loop, and I'll make this a column. So the nested loop, the outer loop will be responsible for the row, and the inner loop will be responsible for creating all the columns in that row. So if you think about it this way, then it would be much easier to work with the nested loops from now on. Okay, so let's console log here just to show you what you get as the output. As you can see, we're getting 8 pound symbols in the output, but we need only 3 pounds on each line, so it's going to be a 3 by 3 pound symbols, and we need that in the output. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, so I want to create all the columns. I want to create an empty variable called line. I will set it to empty string. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to append the pound symbol to this line. So after it completes, it adds the pound symbol for all of the columns for that row. I want to console log that line. Okay, let me save this and run. As you can see, we're getting the desired output, right? All right, so the best way to visualize the code that I've written here so far by debugging it. So let me run the debugger. I have set a breakpoint on the first loop. Let me watch for some variables. Let me watch for row and col and line. Okay, and let's run this. Okay, so the outer loop starts at 1, and then we initialize the variable line to empty string, and then it executes the inner loop. It starts the inner loop at 1, column 1, and then it appends the pound symbol to the line variable. Then it will increment the column to 2, and then it will append another pound, as you can see, and then it increments to column 3. And since we're provided with a number n, you see n is 3, so now we know that the inner loop will break, and so the row will increment. Now we're working on the second row, and then again we initialize the line to an empty string, and then the inner loop will run 3 times to append 3 pound to the line, and then we'll console log the second line. Now we're working with the third line in the loop, and it initialize the line, and then we're appending the pound sign to the line, and then once row is equal to 4, the condition becomes false, so it exits the loop. So this is the code. When you have trouble understanding the code, it's always a good idea to debug it. Okay, so now we know what this is doing. Now we need to take care of the spaces on the right side. We need to do what, let me illustrate that what we need to do here. So we need to replace the for the first line, we need to have 2 spaces. On the second line, we need to have 1 space. Now we need to work on getting an output like this. It will be easier for me to explain this on the blackboard. So let's get on the blackboard.
All right, so whenever we're working with the nested loops, it's always best to visualize it in terms of a table in rows and columns. It makes it much easier to work with the problem. So let's see, on which columns do we have the pound symbol, right? We need to figure that out. We have it here, column 1, row 1. We have it column 1, row 2. As you can see, this is 1 is equal to 1. Column 1 is less than 2. Let's see here. Column 2, row 2. We know that 2 is equal to 2, right? And let's see this one. There's column 3, row 3. We can see that 3 is equal to 3. Just by looking at this, we know that all the columns that have the pound symbol satisfy this condition. Column is either less or equal to the row. All right, since we figured out the condition logic, the code is easy. So here we'll say if column is less than or equal to row, then append this line. Append pound to the line. Else append space. Let's save it and run the code. As you can see, we're getting the desired output. This is the solution to the problem. Let's try with another number, like let's try with 6. Oops. As you can see, we're getting the correct string pattern. We need to write a function that accepts a positive number n. The function should console log a pyramid shape with n levels using the pound character. Make sure the pyramid has spaces on both the left and the right hand side. Here are some of the examples. As you can see that it has spaces on the right and left hand side of the pound symbol whenever there's needed. Okay, so I would like you to give this problem a try. Pause the video right here. As you might have probably guessed, we need a loop, right? As you can see, if the number that's provided is 3, we need 3 rows, right? So we need to write a loop, like I mentioned in the video before this one, that whenever you're working with nested loops, it's best to visualize them in the form of a table consisting of rows and columns. It makes the problem so much easy. So let me write the for loop. Let row equals to 0, row less than n, row plus plus. That's easy, right? So we need 3 rows, and for each line, you see this is one line. I'm calling each row a line, right? So I'm going to need an empty string. So I'm gonna create a variable called line, and I'm gonna set it to an empty string. Now we need to loop over the columns. Let the column equal to 0 and column less than. Okay, so we need to figure out the number of columns, because it's as you can see, for if the number is 3, we need 5 columns. So let's hop on to the blackboard real quick. Okay, so what do we need to figure out is the number of columns, because number of rows is clear. For if n is equal to 2, we have 2 rows. If n is equal to 3, we have 3 rows, right? But the number of columns, if it is 2n minus 1, does this satisfy the number of columns? So if the number is 3, 2 multiplied by 3 is 6, minus 1 is equal to 5. So this satisfies the number of columns. So now we can easily write our inner loop. And we can write it like, let me select the same color. For let column equals to 0, column is less than 2n minus 1, column plus plus, right? So now we need to figure out which columns do we need to put the pound symbol in, right? So if you look at it, we know that the middle column always has the pound symbol. So let's figure out the formula to find the middle column.
So if we have 5 columns and we divide that by 2, we get 2.5, and if we round down this number, we get 2, right? And you can see that the 2 column has, all of it has the pound symbol. Okay, we have a method called math.floor, and to get the number of columns, we already know that it is 2n minus 1, and we divide that by 2, we get the midpoint. We figured out the midpoint. Now we know that there's a few of the pound sign on the right side of the midpoint, and there are a few of the pound sign on the left side of the midpoint. So if you see this carefully and you observe it, you will figure out that all the columns that have the pound symbol satisfy this condition. And the condition is column is either greater than or equal to mid minus row, and column is less than or equal to mid plus row. Okay, so now that we have figured that out, it is so much easy to write the code. So let's hop on the Visual Studio Code and write the code for this one. All right, so as I've explained to you on the Blackboard, we now know the number of columns. That is 2n minus 1, and then we get column plus plus. All right, and we also know the condition to use for determining which column should have the pound symbol, and that is if column is greater than or equal to midpoint minus row, and column is less than midpoint less than or equal to midpoint plus row. All right, so we need to we don't have a variable mid. We need to create that here. I'm gonna use the math.floor and 2n minus 1 divided by 2. All right, okay, and now if this condition is satisfied, we know that we need to append the pound symbol. If not, we need to append space. Okay, and right after this inner loop ends, we need to console log the line. Let me save this and run it. Cannot mix big int and other types use explicit conversion. So I'm getting an error. Let's see what error is this. I know what the problem is. We need to multiply 2 multiplied by n minus 1. And that's the same thing we need to do over here. We need to multiply this like this, 2 multiplied by n minus 1, right? So let me save this and run this again. As you can see, I'm getting the correct output this time. And let me try with another. Let's try with 9. Let me save it and run it. As you can see, we're getting a bigger pyramid this time, and this code is working perfectly.
I've had dreams that weren't just dreams.
Today we need to write a function that accepts an integer n and returns an n by n spiral matrix. Here are some examples. If you're provided with an input number 3, we need to return a two-dimensional array with the values in the same order as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd like you to give this problem a try and pause the video right here.
This is not an easy problem. I would say this is a medium to a hard problem. If you were not able to find a solution to this problem, that is very normal. I was struggling with this problem the first time I tried it. But once you get the trick, problems like this become so much easy. Okay, so as you can see, we need to define a few variables like start row, end row, start column, end column, and we would need a counter variable. And also we would need to take care of the four sides. The top row, we would need one loop for the top row, another loop for the right column, another loop for the bottom row, and another loop for the left column. So we would need at least 4 loops, and once we take care of the outer, the 4 sides, outer sides, we would need to put the 4 loops inside a while loop to take care of all the inner 4 sides of the matrix, right? So our first loop would go from start column to end column, and this would take care of the top row, right? And once we do this, we would increment the start row by 1, so it will move down here. And then we would need another loop that would go from start row to end row, and that would take care of the right side, the right column, right? And once we do this, we decrement the end column. So we decrement the end column. It will come over here. And then we need another loop that would go from end column to start column, and it would take care of the bottom row. And once the bottom row is complete, we would decrement the end row, so it will come over here, and then we would finally run a loop from end row to start row that would take care of the left side, the left column of the matrix. And then once we write these 4 loops, we need to put them inside the while loop, and the while loop would take care of the inner 4 sides. So once you know this, the coding becomes so much easy. So let's start coding.
I'll start off by creating a variable called result. I'll set that to empty array. And we need to return a multi-dimensional array. So to create that, we need to run a for loop for I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Result.push empty array. Return result. Let me run this code to see yes, we're getting 4 empty arrays inside of this array because the number that is provided as the input is 4. Okay, so we need to have 4 rows in the matrix. But these are empty. We need to fill them with values, and once we're done, at the end we will return the result. Okay, and so we need to take care of the 4 sides: top, right, bottom, left. Top, right, bottom, left. Okay, to create this top row, we need to run a loop but first we need to create some variables. The variables that we need to define are counter, I'll set that to 1, start row, I'll set that to 0, end row n-1, start call equals to 0, end call is n-1. Okay, so for the top row we need to start for let I equals to start call, I less than or equal to end call, I plus plus. Make sure you have semicolons here. And result. Okay, so the first value that you'll provide will be for the row, and the second values are going to be for the column. Okay, since the values for the columns are going to be dynamic and it will be coming from I, but we know that the top row is start row, so I'll do start row equal to the counter, and then I will increment the counter like this. Let me save this and run it. Okay, as you can see, the top row is done, so we need to increment the start row. Okay, like it comes here. Okay, let's do this the same thing for the right side. This time it will be start row because it's going to be vertical. It comes from the top to the bottom row, so it will be start row, end row, I plus plus. This time the value for the row will be dynamic, but we know that the column that needs the values changed are going to be the end column. We're going to be adding the values to the end column. So, and at the end, once this end column is done, we will decrement the end column. So it's going to be end call minus minus. I'll save it. I'll run it. As you can see, the top row and the right column is done. Let's take care of the bottom row. So for the bottom row, well, let me copy this one. So for the bottom row, as you know that we will start from the end row, end column, and I is greater than or equal to the start column, and we need to decrement the value of I, the values of the column is going to be dynamic, but we know that since it is going to be the bottom row, so it is going to be the end row. And once that is done, we will decrement the end row like that. Okay, let me run this to see it's working fine. So the top right side and the bottom row is done, so we need to take care of the left side. So for this one, we knew that it's going to go from end row, it's start row. We know that the values for the rows is going to be dynamic, but the values for the column is going to be start col. And once that is done, we will increment the start column like this. So let's run this one. Okay, so the 4 sides are done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So we need to put these 4 loops inside of a while loop to take care of all the inner 4 sides of the matrix. So let me copy the 4 loops that we wrote over here. I'm going to cut it, and here I'm going to write a while loop. While start row is less than or equal to end row, and start column is less than or equal to end column. While this condition is true, execute this code within the body of the while loop, which are the 4 loops. It will keep on looping until it reaches the end of the row and end of the column. So let me save this and run the code. As you can see, we are getting the desired output, and it's going into the right direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let's try with another number like 6 and run the code. We are getting the bigger matrix with the correct values.
Now you're ready to start my LeetCode video series. You should find links somewhere on the screen to the playlist.